Welcome to another episode of the Anyone But Cam Fantasy Football Podcast. I am one of your hosts and one of your commissioners. My name is Frankie, and sitting across the internet for me is Cam. Cam, how are you doing this fine morning?
Frankie, never felt so relaxed in my life. I have 2 weeks of just sitting back, watching chaos unfold. Hope Melvin Gordon gets healthy. I guess I forgot about all my injuries. I'm furious, Frankie. So upset.
Well, I can imagine 2 big injuries in 1 week. It's not looking good, and especially because I really need you to win this week, and we'll get to that. But thank you all for joining us for another episode, the final regular season episode of the Anyone But Cam Fantasy Football Podcast for this year, 2018. And we will start off this episode with a quick question coming in from Dylan, who wrote in saying, why are fumbles -3 in our league while they're -2 in ESPN? Was that also approved at the fantasy meeting or just sleeper default? Well, Dylan, in ESPN, you actually do not gain or lose any points for a fumble. It's just 0, but you do lose 2 points for a fumble lost. Now, on sleeper, it is -1 automatically for a fumble and then -2 for fumble lost. But to answer your question, yes, that is the sleeper default, and something I never noticed, and something no one else ever noticed. So I don't think we're going to change it now. But yeah, moving on.
Something to bring up over the offseason.
Yeah, we can do that for sure. Let's just do a quick recap of tiebreakers, as we talked about last week, as we finished division play this week. Every tiebreaker in the league stayed the same, whether teams split games or, some of you took 2-0 dominance over the others, besides for Justin and Greg, who both flipped their tiebreakers this week. And one thing to note, we talked about it a bit in Sleeper Chat yesterday. Justin went 3-0 in division play the last 3 weeks, flipping all 3 tiebreakers. It's very unlikely he could win the division, but if it ever came down to it, congrats, Justin. Good job. Way to keep yourself in the playoff race. And then Greg also flipped his tiebreaker over Dylan, which doesn't matter because Greg is mathematically out of the playoffs. But I love to see Greg play spoiler. That's what he's really good at, as we saw last season and as we've been seeing so far this season. So good job to both of you guys. And then let's go right into our waiver discussion. Some takeaways this morning. Big ticket items, $25 to Dylan for Spencer Ware.
Boo!
Trying to get that handcuff. You bid $20 here. Are you upset that you missed out on Spencer Ware?
Well, Dylan bid 25 knowing I had 24. The sneaky boy he is.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I was never really expecting to get him, but I figure I gotta try,
Yeah, but instead what you did get was Justin Jackson for $20, which that then mathematically puts you down. Oh, you have one more bid, so you're down to $1 in fab left. Oh my goodness.
Better than Jake Logan. That's all that matters.
And then we see here Greg bid 25 on Carlos Hyde, outbidding Dylan by $25. Jake picks up picks up Rex Burkhead, continuing to just pick up any kind of Patriot player who could possibly touch the ball. And then my big takeaway from waivers this morning was that I barely outbid Dylan for getting the Broncos defense, who I'm hoping to start for the rest of the season. They have good matchups this week till the end of the season. Thank you, Colts. You did your job, but it's the Broncos time. So that's exciting to me. And I also see JP ended up dropping Alex Collins and picking up a Packers defense. The takeover of Gus Edwards is real. That's all I got to say about that.
One thing I noticed was you sniping the Denver defense from Dylan, forcing him to take the Seahawks defense, who plays San Francisco this week, which could be a good matchup, but no good matchups for the rest of the season from what I saw. So Dylan's still trying to see if he can find someone for the rest of his playoff run.
Very much so. Alrighty, let's get right into our weekly recap, and we will start off, as always, with our matchup of the week, which was my matchup this week, mine versus Logan. Very much important for the fate of the Studs and Stoners division, which I defeated Logan narrowly as a beat may be, but a win is a win. Takeaways from my side of the ball, the Steelers overall had pretty good games, besides for Vance, who ended up leaving with an injury, but dropped a touchdown in like one of the easiest touchdown passes I've ever seen in my entire life, which would have been an 11-point swing in my favor. Just didn't happen, but it very much could have happened. Juju's 97-yard touchdown reception was amazing. If you guys can imagine me jumping up and down with my dad in my living room, screaming and yelling about that catch. It was great times. Another disappointing week for Tevin Coleman. Third week in a row. I mean, he's not droppable, and he's still probably a startable player, but just like to see a lot more out of him. And then my other takeaway on my last takeaway on my side of the ball really is that Tariq Cohen has another good game. Been a little hot and cold recently, but even in a game where they just refuse to run the ball, even with Trubisky out, he still is able to get those targets through the air, and that touchdown gave him a good fantasy day. And looking over to Logan's side, Kenyon Drake had a good game, even though he has that shoulder injury. Good to see that. Drake didn't do much for me in fantasy this year, but I think he's a good player and he's fun to watch, so I definitely wish him the best. 13 targets for Calvin Ridley in a game where Matt Ryan threw a lot of balls, so that's always good to see. And then, I was, a little bit of an insight into my own mind. I was up by about 30 something, maybe 35 points going into Sunday Night Football and then Monday Night Football respectively. Devontae Adams, who scored a touchdown in the first quarter, gave me a scare. I was like, oh no, this is going to be one of those 3 touchdown games and it's just, it's all over. But it didn't end up happening. 5 for 8, 69 yards and a touchdown. So good try, Logan, but better luck next year. Enjoy consolation bracket.
Yeah, rough loss for Logan. He tried to be the snake charmer he thought he could be, but came up short and got bit.
That's true. Moving on here, we'll stick to the division, and we'll move down to Lassie versus JP. Lassie going big again, 140.14 points. Very impressive. Looking over some of these, 8 targets through the air for Saquon Barkley, tying that with 101 yards. And a running touchdown as well for Saquon. We said probably a month and a half ago at this point that Saquon is a league winner for a better team. But Lassie, as we also talked about, definitely not out of the playoff race. And who knows, it could be a league winner regardless of how good Lassie's team is. He's the number 1 scorer on the week once again. And then, but you'd be remiss if we didn't mention the Amari situation. 8 targets for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, seeming to be the only wide receiver really fitting into the new offense that was traded midseason so far this season. With Josh Gordon not outstanding. And then the only other thing for Lassie's side is he's a bit in a search right now for another good wide receiver option. Jarvis Landry, as I mentioned a little bit ago, as the Browns continue to play teams better and better and actually win games, Jarvis gets targeted less and less, and Josh Gordon is fine, but I'd really like to see Lassie try and find somebody else to really fit in that wide receiver 2 slot. I don't see him picking up anyone on the waivers this week. So I don't know, maybe he's content. And then looking over more to JP's side, another really good week for 128 points, nothing to scoff at, even with the loss. The only player who really underperformed on his team, besides for the Jags defense, is David Johnson, but he kind of got game planned out. The Cardinals were down pretty early in that game. And then something to note with Manuel Sanders, he got 12 targets, the vast majority of the targets against Pittsburgh, even though he had Joe Hayden on him most of the game. He had some really good catches in that game, taking away targets from people like Cortland Sutton. And then I guess maybe this is just another thing that's flying under the radar for me. I didn't realize how solid Julian Edelman's been the last like 6 weeks, I guess 7 weeks if you include the bye. He's been very solid. Really ever since coming back in week 5, he's been really solid so far for JP this season. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to see how Lassie won this game when you just like scroll over because Jake's got a lot of green on his scores because a lot of his players perform pretty well. And Lassie's got a couple people that didn't do super great, with Jarvis Landry getting 4 points, Josh Gordon underperforming. But just those 2 players, Saquon Barkley and Amari Cooper, combining for, 65-ish points?
Yeah.
It's tough for JP. Gotta get a loss like that.
Yeah. It's rough, but like I said, I mean, JP is also not out of the playoff race, and putting up numbers like that, one of the higher scorers on the week. I think maybe the third highest score or fourth.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's definitely up there.
Oh yeah.
Let's move down to the Rotlack division now, and we'll start with your upset of the week pick, Greg over Dylan, and oh boy, you were right.
Finally.
We'll start with Dylan's side. 2 down weeks in a row for James Conner. I find that to be more of an outlier than a pattern, but we will see. Just kind of been playing. I mean, he got Jacksonville to Denver, 2 pretty dang good run defenses. So I don't think it's too much of something. Although he did pick up Curtis Samuel, it was more of a handcuff watch, but because I don't see him taking over any significant portion of James Conner's snaps or touches, but whatever. The Vikings rolled this week. Adam Thielen 22.5, Stephon Diggs 18.9, but just not quite enough to put him over, especially when you consider that Andy Dalton only got him 8 points and a thumb injury to end his season. It's unfortunate for the Red Rifle or whatever they called him. That was his name, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, Fournette went big for Greg, looking over to his side, but he will miss this week because he came off the bench to fight people. You hate to see that.
Greg definitely needs him.
Yeah. The AJ Green watch continues. Apparently he was pre-practice this morning, and he said he was feeling good. The reports are this morning that he will play this week, and he needs AJ Green this week, in my opinion. So that's something to keep watching. Greg got a boost from the special teams department, and that's what I call the kicker defense. Not too much for Will Lutz, but 21 points for the Ravens against Oakland. That's a great pick there, Greg. And just, you have 4 quarterbacks on your team, and I know it makes your start sit harder, but I got to do it to you. Greg, you started the wrong quarterback again. But it wouldn't have mattered, and he stole him from Dylan, so good job.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of those quarterbacks is just keep Andy Dalton on Dylan's team, and that was a masterful move by Greg. Could not be more proud of him for that.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and then staying interdivisionally, Justin versus Levi. Justin blowing out Levi 133-85. Starting off with Levi's side, it's the worst game of the year for Michael Thomas. I actually didn't get to watch this game. I don't know what happened, why he only got 6 targets, 4 receptions for less than 40 yards. That's pretty crazy.
And then, I got something for you.
Oh yeah.
Drew Brees threw 4 touchdown passes to undrafted free agent receivers. So all right. They were just doing so good they didn't need him at all. It's crazy.
Okay, wow, that's very interesting. And then something else to note, just to tie that up, is he does get to play Dallas, who has probably their best defense in a decade right now. So good luck with that. And then his receiving core overall just didn't do so great. This was also DeAndre Hopkins' worst week of the year. It's just kind of no touchdown, not a whole lot of yards from either of them. And then continuing on with Levi's side, Breida's back. So that's good. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, not with counting the bye. He's been putting up some decent to good numbers. It'll be good to see for him. And one other thing I wanted to highlight on Levi's side is that he did start Duke Johnson here, who total got 3 touches. And if you look at the other running back for Cleveland, and Chubb, had 31 touches. That's rough. That's rough, man. And then looking quickly over to Justin's side, Christian McCaffrey, week in, week out, doing work for him, of course. And Ty also doing work for him. I would say Justin's team is mostly being carried by those two players, although Mixon is very much playing a good RB2 role, and his quarterback starts hits have been very good the last several weeks as well, propelling him to these victories. Another down week for Odell Beckham, but the Giants are still trying to win games, which is good, so I can still see him having good weeks ahead of him. And Justin, I'm going to need you to put a little bit more effort in finding another wide receiver, though, or somebody else in your flex. Nelson Aguilar, he's old news. Get him off your roster. We don't need him here.
Yeah, Levi's team not looking good coming down the stretch.
Yeah.
Like, we all know he's a definite contender, but if DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas can underperform like this now, he doesn't want them to redo that in the playoffs. And lastly, you said Duke Johnson is flex. I don't know who he can replace him with, though. Chris Thompson, if he starts playing again, could be good. We don't know how he'll do with the backup quarterback in there with Colt McCoy. But other than that, a lot of, droppable people on his bench that he'd have to start.
Yeah, I mean, just looking, unless he wants to try and play two tight ends, you could slip Hooper into there and get Kelsey back from the bye. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what he decides to do. Mm-hmm. Alrighty, let's go down now to the alphas, and we'll start off here with Devin versus Tyler. Tyler, another big win for him. But we'll start over with Devin's side quickly. Devin sticking with Carson Wentz on his team, better than last week at less than a point, but still not what you want to see from your fantasy quarterback. Gets burned again by that. Although, had he started Deshaun Watson, it wouldn't have mattered ultimately. But, and then so some injury stuff this week, a lot of injury stuff this week, actually. But especially to, probably most importantly, to Melvin Gordon. And then we saw a very much increased role from Austin Eckler, who is a more than capable backup, 21.3 points. It's definitely a startable asset going forward. And Devin, stop starting Jordan Howard. I don't know how many weeks I have to make fun of you for this, but this is at least 3 in a row. Stop starting him. Just stop it. It hurts me to see. Actually, it doesn't hurt me. I actually love seeing how many points Tariq Cohen gets. But come on, Devin. And then let's look quickly over to Tyler's side. Nick Chubb, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, with 31 touches. Yeah, that's elite. And then, we talked about this a bit 2 weeks ago, I think it was, as we'll get to it in the next matchup as well. But with the Jack Doyle injury, I think a lot of people are slotting an uptick for Eric Ebron here, which I'm not totally sure I agree with, because I think most of the reason, the reason that whole thing has worked is because they have the 2 tight end set, and they have to cover both, defenses have to cover both of them. Once they just have to focus now on Eric Ebron because they don't have somebody as explosive as Jack Doyle on the other side. I don't think that the uptick is going to be that significant, if at all. It might even be a downtick, honestly. And then just my only takeaway from Tyler's side is that Julio and AB good enough, but even with no touchdowns. But yeah, that's definitely a solid performance for Tyler as he continues to try and sneak into the playoffs with the last wildcard spot.
All right, Frankie, first off, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that Eric Ebron take. He was drafted in the first round because he is such a mismatch with his speed and size. So I think, with the Colts scheme they have going on, they'll be able to get him the targets, and he's shown, obviously, that he can score a lot of points. So I think Ebron's going to be a super solid part of Tyler's team going forward, personally.
No, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I was just saying that I feel like there's a general consensus that there's going to be there's going to be an uptick, or Eric Ebron is now all of a sudden more valuable. I just don't think that's necessarily true.
I guess maybe his floor raised, but his ceiling maybe fell a bit. How about that?
Right.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, Tyler's team looking strong on the stretch run, getting a clutch division win, because this puts him 1 game out of playoffs, right?
It does.
Yeah. And Devin, like, honestly think Carson Wentz is droppable given the other quarterbacks he has on his team.
Yeah.
But it's rough that he had to have this important game with Todd Gurley and Brandon Cooks on bye and Kerryon Johnson hurt. But not clutch.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But let's just move on here. Now it's the last matchup of the week, and that'll be your matchup versus Jake. Matchup that Jake and I have been talking about since about 2 months ago, back when the trade deadline was still had not approached yet. Talking about how Jake can compile a roster to beat you this week. Ultimately, it wasn't enough with the Rams on bye. But we'll start with your side. Rip Melvin Gordon, just pouring out for your boy, one of the better players in the league. He'll be back soon, hopefully. And then just take away on your side as well is Dak is continuing to surge, a little bit hot and cold, but 26 points. So this week is nothing to scoff at whatsoever. Looking at his upcoming schedule, he has New Orleans followed by Philly, and then he has Indianapolis, and then championship week, Tampa Bay. That's a great ending stretch quarterback pickup for you. And then only other takeaway from your side really is that DJ Moore is the wide receiver 1 for Cam Newton right now, and I would say maybe your search for wide receiver 2 is over with him. But we'll see. And then quickly over to Jake's side, the Adrian Peterson downtick, as we all talked about like a month ago, is definitely real. And then last week we also talked about. I said that last week I said 2 weeks ago that he was going to chase Corey Davis's points, which he did, and then he benched him and he went out for 21.5. Corey Davis, aka the new Amari. And then my big takeaway from Jake's side overall is that Mike Evans, 2 good weeks in a row, against not great defenses, but he is finding a role in the offense with Jameis at the helm, which is something that's been a bit of a struggle, definitely earlier in the season, and that's good to see for Jake's prospects going forward.
Yeah, what's super nice about Mike Evans is that he got the 14 points that he got when they won the game 27-9, so they didn't even really need to pass it a lot for most of the game. So you can tell he's definitely an important part of that offense. But you can't say that about a lot of other players on Jake's team. Like Adrian Peterson, yeah, the Redskins probably need him to win, but I'm not sure if they're a good enough team to use him in a way that he'll be productive. And then Sterling Shepard, same kind of thing the Giants have 2 other much better weapons. Not saying Sterling Shepard isn't good, but any week he could just be third seat to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, better luck next time, Jake.
Alrighty, and before we get into a new Canada Power Rankings, we're going to do a quick playoff picture update. Of course, you can always see the new playoff picture update, the new slide I put up in the pin post. And some things that have changed this week is that Dylan clinches a playoff spot with Devin's loss, and you also clinched a division title and therefore a first round bye with Devin's loss as well. And then the only other thing we mentioned a couple times, but Justin, who was 4-5 going into division play, now 7-5 in prime position to take this wild card spot going into the double header this week. Some things to watch out for him is that it could come down to a points for tiebreaker, which he currently has a bit of a lead on Devin, but is a bit behind on Tyler. So Justin, is going to want some big stuff this week, but he's put in the work so far to put himself into that spot. I guess let's do a quick rundown too for anyone who doesn't want to click onto the sheet. Currently, division leaders are still Levi, Cam, and myself in the wild cards. Currently, Dylan, who has clinched, Jake and Justin, both in contention for wild card spots. The only other people in contention for wild card spots are Tyler and Devin, and I guess technically myself too. But anyways, and then still in contention for division title is Lassie, JP, and Logan, which we will go over when we preview this next week.
Yeah, one thing that I think is important to notice is the wild card race, besides Dylan right now, has 2 7-5 teams currently in, 2 6-6 teams currently out. So if those 7-5 teams can sweep their triple headers, then they're guaranteed their spot. But the 6-6 teams got to get at least one win in order to have a chance.
Yes, that's true. Alrighty. So now we're going to do a new type of power ranking. It's not a traditional type of we've done so many times so far. But this new concept, actually, Cam, why don't you explain it? This was your idea.
Okay, so basically we got to the end of the season, and as a way of looking back on how people have performed this season and really throughout their entire tenure in this league, we decided to make power rankings of how hot each coach's or manager's seat is. So hot seat power rankings.
All right.
And the way we're doing this is we have, 5 tiers.
Uh-huh.
Each of them is referencing an actual NFL coach and how their hot seat situation currently is or was this season. And we're going to say which coaches remind us of which actual coaches in the NFL.
All right.
So the first tier we got is the worst tier, which, of course, how could we not name it the Hugh Jackson tier?
Oh.
These coaches or managers, whatever you want to call them, I don't know, are, have bad records, don't have a good control of their team. Just overall, you'd be surprised if they can make it to the end of the season and still have their job. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So the first team we have is Greg. Poor old Greg. He did good getting a win this last week, but you can't really use that to change the fact that he is currently 3-8? 3-9. Oh, Greg, with only 2 wins in the division. And as we've said often, he's had this QB carousel just going in his team this entire season, and bad coaches don't know how to maximize their players, don't know when to start who, and I don't know if that describes a coach better than Greg. And lastly, Sleeper has this handy-dandy thing where it shows your maximum possible points for if you put your best lineup in each week. And Greg has the worst difference between his best possible lineup scores and his actual scores with 224 points just left out there in the dust. He's gotta work on those start sits, because that's definitely what's bringing Greg down.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about Greg's team. I don't want to pile on too much, but it's just it's been a rough year for old Greggy. And then looking a bit historically, if we count the last 2 seasons, back 2016, and then including the rankings, the end of season placings, I mean, for 2016, 2017, and then currently, his overall average is he's averaging 8th place in the league, which is good for 10th overall out of 12 in our league. So yeah, it's Greg, I think would be the subject of Hard Knocks next year if we were to make our own little series.
I think that would be a pretty entertaining show.
Yeah.
You want to take the next one?
Still in the Hugh Jackson tier, we have Logan down here. Logan, who started off beating me, and starting off 2-0 overall, and then the pickup of Philip Lindsay following that was also very good. But as we've talked about it quite a bit, he had an 8-game losing streak, which honestly went under the radar for me just because that's how bad my division is. But yeah, that's man, it's just not good. And then looking here, also a handy thing Sleeper has towards the bottom in the recent league activity, you can see everyone's like trades and waivers and all those transactions. This also went under the radar for me. 9 trades on the season. 9. And it's like you look at these and it's like he traded away Julio Jones week 1 for Royce Freeman and Doug Baldwin. Yikes. And trades away Doug for Isaiah Crowell. And just like you just go through all these and it's just like, what are you doing? And then it kind of I think it kind of peaks when he gets to mine in his trading away Sony Michel and Philip Lindsay for Larry Marvin and Kenyon. It's just I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things where like if Logan had a fan base, they'd be losing their minds on Twitter. Just like what is going on?
Yeah, and you brought up the history for Greg's team with Logan. His first season in the league, he got that consolation championship, and
Yeah.
honestly, I think he's just been riding that high for the rest of his tenure in this league, getting 11th last season, barely not losing the whole thing, and now 11th again this season. He's got to figure out a way to turn that around.
Yeah, he currently, in the event that the rankings right now are to hold, he would currently be the worst overall placing owner of all time in our league over the past 3 years. So that's rough. That's rough.
So moving on, the next tier we have is the Mike McCarthy's. So for those of you that may not know, Mike McCarthy is the coach of the Green Bay Packers. For a while now, he's been regarded as a pretty good coach, but this last season, with Aaron Rodgers finally back and healthy, and the Packers not winning a lot of games, a lot of people are saying he is not able to maximize the offense or the talent on his team. And honestly, they should cut Mike McCarthy and try and give Aaron Rodgers a coach that will actually help him, take this team to where it should be. So the first team we have here is Devin. So Devin's team, throughout about the middle of the season, we were thinking definitely a wild card team, maybe even win the division. He was set up well to make the playoffs, but these last 3 weeks, I'm pretty sure, he lost all of his division games, and now he's on the outside looking in of playoffs. Overall in the division, he's only won 1 game. So, if you're a coach, you got to be able to at least be competitive in your division, and he is not doing that. And like Mike McCarthy might be riding off the coattails of Aaron Rodgers, it's possible Devin is just riding off the coattails of Todd Gurley, and not actually a good coach, just has the best player on his team and just takes that to wins. And finally, he has the third most points left on his bench, so the third worst start-sit decisions in the league. Got to clean those up too.
Yeah, it's been rough sledding ever since. Devin he actually had a really good shot to win the league last year, and then ended up falling short. And just it's been a rough season for the Eagles and for Devin, which kind of just goes one and the same.
Philly Dilly.
And then the next team in this Mike McCarthy tier, we have Jacob Pond, JP, who, at one point was a strong contender for winning the division, Studs and Stoners division, but has been on a crazy losing streak, has not won since week 7, and has a super long shot for playoffs, still in it to win the division title. But the only way he could win that really is if he wins both of his games. Actually, I don't even it'd take a lot. It'd take a lot for JP to win. So it started off well. You had the talent available, but just things have gone sideways, and you're just kind of left wondering what happened. Why haven't they won since week 7? I don't know.
Yeah, it's rough for JP, but he's got to figure out something in order to regain that glory he had back in the old days when he may have won a division or a championship, or at least finished third. And after that, we have a tier of the Jay Grudens, coach of the Washington Redskins. And no one says that he's a great coach, no one says he's a real bad coach, but he's got his team, the Redskins, set up to make it into playoffs at least. And there have been some injuries on that team, obviously with Alex Smith and a lot of their defensive players. So maybe you can chalk a little bit up to just being unlucky. So the teams that we have in this tier, the first one is you, Frankie, because you've had a really up and down career in this league. You got the title 2 seasons ago, but last season finished 10th, and a lot of people thought maybe you weren't the best team in the league. So it's hard to really tell if you're at the top or at the bottom or somewhere in the middle. And then this season is kind of the exact same thing, where you could be the 3 seed and actually fight it out for a title again, or if certain situations end up happening, you could be there right in the middle of the losers bracket, trying not to be the ultimate loser again. However, you've had some unlucky things with Le'Veon Bell holding out the whole season, and some trades have definitely set you up well to at least compete for playoffs, as we talked about a little bit with Logan. So, you're definitely not on the hot seat per se, but you gotta at least finish strong to keep yourself off of it.
Yeah, I would say that I think I embody this tier like maybe more than anyone else embodies their tier because Jay Gruden was definitely on the hot seat going into this season, as I would have put myself going into this season. Just like yeah, I was kind of could say I was riding off the Super Bowl high, but it just it was a really rough season last year, and then just things started off not so hot either, and but with things like the acquiring of Adrian Peterson for Jay Gruden and the acquiring of all the running backs I acquired this season through the midseason trading, things have turned around, and I'm looking to be a team that probably not that competitive in playoffs, like the Redskins probably won't be, but could still make it, and that's half the battle right there. And then continuing on with this tier, the other team we have here is Austin Lassiter. We kind of just put ourselves in the same tier here because we teams that have been good in the past, not so much this season. Some luck hasn't gone our way, especially Lassie injury wise. Things just not really working out for him. Although he hasn't exactly been as proactive compared to like say myself, just looking at the record book here, has only made 17 waiver claims on the season as opposed to me who's made 37. But yeah, and things looking up for Lassie though with the running back situation as well, with the emergence of Aaron Jones, who he still hasn't traded to me, and still sad about. And yeah, he might, he does have a chance to win the division, but he is pretty much out of the wild card race, and he might not be that big of a factor in playoffs, but he could get there. So that's why we have us in that tier.
Yeah, definitely makes sense for Lassie there because he could go any way the end of the season. I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
Following that, we have the Bill O'Brien tier. He is a coach of the Texans. I'm assuming everyone that's actually listening to this knows this. I don't know why I'm saying it. But yeah, he was probably up there in the top list of coaches to be fired at the beginning of the season, like what people were thinking. But now, after the 0-3 start for the Texans, they've gone on an 8-game winning streak, I think. So he's definitely gotten off that hot seat with how they've been performing recently. And the first team we have here is Jake Logan. Jake Logan, was outside looking in during the middle of the season for playoffs, but these last 5 weeks, he's won 4 out of the 5 games, and now he is the 5th seed, about to go into playoffs. And he's 4-2 in the division, which means he's winning the games that he needs to win. And earlier in the season, we did poke a little fun at Jake Logan because he dropped Watson for Trubisky, and we're like, idiot, $50, why? But since then, Trubisky's actually been playing well. You can't blame him for the injury. Stuff happens, and it's actually been a pretty good move for him.
Yeah, I mean, Jake said it best himself. He performs the best in division play. And that's just the truth. He's really has surged late to put himself in position to play a spoiler role in playoffs this season. Currently in the second wild card spot with a points-4 lead over Justin. Yeah, it's definitely looking up for Jake Logan for sure. And then let's move on here. Next team in the Bill O'Brien tier, we have Justin slated right here, also in the wild card race after a rough 0-3 start in division play of his season. And then, he's had a pretty average season after that, some wins, some losses here and there. But you lead up to week 9, the podcast we did before, or previewing week 9, I guess. And we called his game versus Devin a must win because of the 0-3 start in division play. And we just thought that he's no ways beating Dylan or Levi. He could probably beat Greg, but if he really wants to get into this, he needs to beat Devin. Devin won that game. But then he goes 3-0 in division play, smoking everyone he's just taking names wherever he can. And now he's right back in the playoff race, currently the 6th spot, as I said. And I don't know. I think Justin can beat any team in the league, as he's proven, considering he just beat maybe the 2 best teams in the league in basically back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a more Bill O'Brien team than Justin, because I definitely did not think he was in this as much as 3 or 4 weeks ago. But all of a sudden, like, I'm hoping he doesn't make playoffs because his team's pretty scary with Christian McCaffrey just going mental on the field right now. But finally, our last Bill O'Brien team is Tyler Walker. Just like Justin, he also started 0-3. But now all he needs to do is win this last triple header game with Justin in order for him to overtake him and get into playoffs. There's been a lot of, tough things to happen for Tyler so far this season, but getting Nick Chubb to finally be the starter and take over this team and give him that solid running back production he needs has just put his team as a real contender compared to early in the season. Maybe it didn't deserve to be at this point. And yeah, he's looking scary for playoffs just like Justin is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've talked quite a bit this season about James White and how much of a rock he's been. But James White has not been as great the past 2-3 weeks or whatever, and that's kind of where Nick Chubb has really taken up the gauntlet and propelled this team to becoming to keep it as a contender and keeping him in the race. I remember way back in week 2 or 3 or whatever, and one of the questions that we got in the mailbag was which team, which 0-3 or 1-2 team do you think is for sure not going to make playoffs? And we thought Tyler could, but I definitely see him more as a consolation bracket winner. And here we are, outside looking in. He's currently at number 7. Just needs to beat Justin. He already has a points for tiebreaker over him for that wild card spot. It's do or die time, and I'm excited to see it.
Mm-hmm. So this last tier, we don't really need to talk about. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's the Belichicks, and that includes Dylan, Levi, and myself. I mean, throughout the last seasons, we've all been at the top or near the top. Same with this season. And there's no reason for us to be on the hot seat right now.
I will say that of all these teams currently in this tier here, I think you exemplify the Belichick the most because you're very good at winning games, but you're also very good at losing Super Bowls. So, yeah.
But you got to get there to lose them. That's all I can say.
Alrighty, that was our hot seat power rankings. Let's move on now to our matchup of the week. And because it's the week 13 double headers, we have these kind of three-way matchups. We have these 4 three-way matchups going. So we'll highlight one of them, and we will pick here Justin versus Tyler versus JP. We've talked quite a bit about it just a minute ago, with Tyler needing to beat Justin to get in to the playoff race here. 6th seed versus 7th seed. And maybe a smaller story is JP, who could come out of nowhere and beat both of them and propel himself into a wild Studs and Stoners win, which would be insane. But I think it could happen. But yeah, definitely, if we're picking a matchup of the 3 matchups happening here, Justin versus Tyler is the one I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah, this one's tough for Tyler. I'm looking at his team this week. He's got Andrew Luck playing Jacksonville, which Ebron did pretty well against him Andrew Luck and Ebron did pretty well against him last game. But, Jacksonville's always got a chance to be a good defense. But then Antonio Brown versus the Chargers and Julio Jones versus Baltimore, both very either good to great defenses. And James White versus Minnesota, Nick Chubb at Houston. There's a lot of bad matchups here. That's not good.
Yeah, rough matchups on Tyler's side, although I will remind you and everyone else that is Big Ben prime time Sunday Night Football slot versus the Chargers. The matchup doesn't matter. Big Ben goes Big Ben in prime time, and AB is usually a recipient of that Big Ben production.
Yeah, JP, he's got New England's playing Minnesota, and that's basically half his team. He's got a good offense, and their defense hasn't been as great recently, so that could, help him get these clutch wins, but I don't know how much they'll actually be able to put up. And Justin, Chris McCaffrey versus Tampa Bay. Oh God, that could be a lot of points right there.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, Tampa Bay does have a relatively stout run defense. Like, it's definitely better than the pass defense. But as we know, Christian McCaffrey is like basically a wide receiver as well. So that could be a lot of PPR points for Justin.
Yeah. So Frankie, who you got in this one? I guess just rank them first, second, third in order of scoring.
Well, third is definitely JP. Oh man, I'm just so worried about Chubb going against that stout, the healthy defensive line for Houston. But I think I'm going to take Tyler in this one, just because I feel like even if both James White and Nick Chubb can't find much work on the ground, I think they can still find work through the air. I don't really worry about Julio against the Ravens defense too much. AB in prime time. Yeah, I mean, Eric Ebron without Jack Doyle, I think will still be good. And then, I don't know, pick somebody from your bench or Willie Snead and throw him in your flex. I think I'm going to pick Tyler, but I think it's probably going to be one of the closer matchups of the week.
Yeah, I think I'll swap you there and put Justin ahead of Tyler and then ahead of JP. However, that is dependent on Justin's start-sit decisions, because right now he's got a couple of them going on that I don't quite agree with. And if he can clean that up a bit, I'll take him to win.
Yeah, I can see the changes as well. So we'll see what each other decides to do, though. No assisting from us. Alrighty, and as we talked about a week or two ago, the last Try Hard Chalice match of the year, because it does end in the regular season, is Dylan versus Devin.
I have to work harder. I want to excel. I want to be the greatest, so I'll keep on trying until I've got what it takes to do that!
As a part of their three-way game with Logan. Logan not eligible for the Try Hard Chalice, but this is the last chance for Dylan to lose the chalice, for someone to take it from him, as he's held on to it for pretty much the entire season. But yeah, let's just look over this matchup here between Devin and Dylan. You know, it's interesting in the running back department from Devin's side, if you look at this, because Todd Gurley is, he should be back from the foot soreness after the bye, or it was an ankle issue. No, foot soreness was Sammy. The ankle issue. Going to the bye and going up to Detroit's defense, which ever since acquiring Snacks has become a much more stout against the run. And then you're starting along with that a backup running back, basically in Austin Eckler against the Steelers, who I think he can definitely run on as well. Oof. And then I do like Wentz overall against Washington. In Monday Night Football, that'll be a fun one to watch. See if that matchup does come down to that. But I guess there's a chance he starts Deshaun Watson too. I guess one of the bigger questions is, it will carry on be able to come back, because I think he could be a good start this week. But it looks like he did not show up to practice this morning. So, man, some rough stuff from Devin's side. Dylan, looking at Dylan's side, does get Mahomes back this week from the bye. Has okay matchups all across the board. Vikings versus New England. That's definitely one that could go pretty well, especially because the Vikings really need to start stacking some wins here. Yeah, I think overall I'm probably gonna end up picking Dylan on this one, but I could definitely argue both ways.
Yeah, honestly, I think Dylan's got this pretty locked up.
Okay.
With just Patrick Mahomes versus Oakland, oh boy, that could be a lot of points. I don't know. I don't think Devin's got good enough matchups to take down a better team that is Dylan's team. And then Logan last.
I guess let's just do the same thing here and rank the three in points total then. So if I'm picking Dylan, we got Dylan, Devin, Logan, I think. So we got it going.
Yeah, rough for Dylan, because he'll need probably get more than just that one win to make playoffs.
Yeah. Alrighty, so that leaves two more of these matchups to focus on, and we'll start here with your matchups here. We have you versus Lassie versus Greg. I guess I'll just ask you straight up, what are you looking at going into this week for yourself?
So, as we all have heard multiple times from me so far, I lost my dear darling Melvin Gordon to an MCL tear. And, starting some scrubs there in the tight end spot. Not super confident with my team overall this week. So This is actually going to be my upset of the week.
I'm upset. Louder! I'm upset. Louder! I'm upset! Say it louder! I'm upset!
No, Cam, say it ain't so. I need you to win.
I know, I'm sorry, Frankie.
Please.
I want to win this one, I
Cam,
swear.
One time I actually want you to win. And this is what you're going to do to me?
Dude, just Aaron Jones versus Arizona? Like, oh my god.
I'm going to take solace. I'm going to take solace in the fact that you're usually wrong. These upset picks are usually wrong. I'm going to take solace in that.
But I'm on a hot streak. I picked Greg. Yeah, but despite the fact that I did just pick Greg, I'm still going to put Greg at the bottom of this menage a trois with me second and Lassie first.
I'm going to pick Greg, and I'm going to pick Greg, then you, then Lassie, just for my own sanity. And I'm going for maximum chaos, and that's what I'm going with.
My only hope for me is just the Bears defense able to shut down the Giants and Saquon Barkley. That happens, I think I got a shot.
Yeah. Why does Fournette have to be out? Why does everything just not go my way? I'm so unlucky, don't you all see? Anyways, one last matchup of the week, and it is my matchup, myself versus Levi versus Jake. Just looking at things on my side of the field here. Chargers have a good defense, but I don't care. Big Ben on primetime. I'm rolling with it. It's for the sake of the Steelers season and my own. I'm just gonna rely on it. We're going with it. Sonny Michel, I think, can still be a pretty good asset against Minnesota. I'm excited to see that. I think Philip Lindsay can do really, really good stuff against Cincinnati. My big questions rely in the wide receiver department. I don't particularly want to start Sammy at all, really, and he is still injured. Juju, I think, I don't care. Primetime Steelers. Vance, who is a touchdown guy every week, but just usually scores touchdowns, did leave in the middle of the game with an injury, and I wasn't able to secure a tight end this week. Thank you, Cam. But I still have, Allen Robinson, who I might throw in there, or if I'm really feeling desperate, I might even throw in a Curtis Samuel into my flex. We'll see. You'll just watch out for that. But I'm not excited about my team going into this week, if I'm completely honest with you.
Yeah, honestly, yours is probably the closest triple threat of this week. Just looking at Levi's team, Michael Thomas is playing Dallas, who does have a pretty good defense now, and DeAndre Hopkins is playing Cleveland, who has Denzel Ward, who's a top-tier corner. So there are some tough matchups for Levi, but I feel like his team is just a step above your guys' teams with like Travis Kelce versus Oakland and Cam Newton versus Tampa Bay could just go off.
So not looking forward to that game.
Yeah, but between you and Jake Logan, if Zeke gets shut down by that New Orleans run defense, which is super stout this season, I think you can take the win over him.
I'm hoping so. I need to at least split, and I need you or Greg to come up big for me in terms of my playoff hopes. But yeah, if we're to rank them, I'm going to probably go Levi 1, myself 2, Jake 3. Are you feeling the same?
Yeah. I agree. It's out of division play. Jake Logan can't win.
Hoping. Alrighty. Thank you all once again for listening to another episode of the Anyone But Cam Fantasy Football Podcast, the last one of the regular season, coming to you next week with a playoff primer, I guess, if we will. I have been Frankie.
And I am Cam.
Good luck to all of you on your matchups this week, besides for Levi, Jake, and Lassie.
Yeah, everyone can have good luck. I already secured my bye. Suck it.
See you guys later.
Bye.